السلام عليكم. هذا حل أسئلة Lecture 2 from BBE. أول سؤال: In which of the following cases is the sampling distribution of the means more likely to be normal, assuming the population distribution is not normal? أهم شي not. فالحين في قاعدة لازم نتذكرها واللي هي إن حتى لو population distribution is not normal, as long as we keep increasing the number of individuals per sample or we increase the sample size, it will eventually more closely resemble a normal distribution. فمني the closest answer or the best answer is C. Moving on to the next question. The weight of children born from non-smoker mothers has. فهني لازم نشوف box whisker plot. It's important to remember إن هذه 25th percentile, هذه 50th, 75th و 100. نفس الشيء هني 25th, 50th, 75th, 100. ال 50th هي نفسها الميديان، نفس الشيء هني median. فالحين we would want to compare between non-smokers و smokers. أول شيء راح نلاحظه إن it has a higher median. The non-smokers have a higher median than the smokers. One other thing إن it has a higher variability compared to the non-smokers. Higher variability means it covers a wider range of values. فهني the answer is A. Next question. 200 samples were taken. What's the distribution of the sample mean? The important thing مني is the 200 samples. That means it's a large sample size, but it will more closely resemble a normal distribution. But it's not A, and A looks like it's positively skewed. It looks like it's positively skewed. Or B also does not look like a normal distribution. C does not look a normal distribution as well. But D is the best answer. It looks like a normal distribution plot. Next question. Question number 4. The BMI of military soldiers has a mean of 27.5 kilograms per millimeter and a standard deviation of 2.5 kilogram per meter. What is true? فهني it's more of a process of elimination, فلازم نحل عشان نعرف which is the best answer. First, let's check A. 68% of the soldiers between BMI is between 22.5 or 27.5. Here we have to determine the range of 68%. It's a simple formula. راح نحط المين, which is 27.5, plus minus. If it's 68%, it means this follows the empirical rule. It's one standard deviation above and below the mean. One standard deviation of the value 2.5. For the range is going to be the 68% range, 27.5 minus 2.5, or 25, and 27.5 plus 2.5, which is 30. For 68% of the soldiers' BMI are between 25 and 30. For this proves and A is wrong. Let's check B. 95% of BMI mean is between 20 and 30. It's basically the same formula, but in this case, we use two standard deviations. We use two standard deviations based on the empirical rule. 27.5 plus 2.5 يعطينا plus minus أول شيء. if we subtract أول شيء راح يعطينا 22.5 و 32.5. 95% of the BMI mean is between 22.5 and 32.5. This is also wrong. To the next question, next option, 95% is more than 20. In order to verify this option, we need to use the z-score and the z-score table. For the z-score formula is x, which is the value, minus the sample mean or the population mean over the standard deviation. في a specific way I like to use, أحس يعطيني a more accurate answer, which is solving for x to verify. I'd use what z-score value would give me 95% to find out what the actual x value is. If it's closer to 20 well it's not. فالحين شنو اللي بيعطيني 95%؟ The important thing to remember إن إحنا قاعد نطالع more than 20. If this is the sampling distribution table or sampling distribution graph, 20 would be approximately here. وإحنا بنشوف if 95% is more than 20. فإحنا عشان we find out which z-score value that is, نشوف here ولازم ندور 5%, which is 0.05. The closest one is this one or this one. I'd like to go with this. 1.64. What's important to keep it negative since it's below the sample mean. Negative 1.64 equals x minus 27.5 over the standard deviation 2.5. Using the calculator to solve هيطلع لي negative 1.64 minus 2.5, then plus 27.5 is that x is equal to 23.4. So 95% is more than 23.4 and not 20. This makes it automatically that D is the answer, but if you'd like we can verify it too. What z-score يقدر يعطيني 0.15% is more than 35. هي احنا قاعد نطالع العكس. 35 is larger than the mean, so it's going to be on this side. فهني we don't need to subtract to find the value. We just look for what's equivalent of 0.15%, which is 0.0015. The closest one I found is this one, 2.97. هني مو لازم we turn it to negative لأن it's larger than the mean. 2.97 equals x minus the sample mean, which is 27.5 over 2.5. 2.97 multiplied by 2.5 يعطيني 7.425. Then if we add it with 27.5 يعطيني x is equal to 34.925, which is approximately 35. It shows that it is the right answer. Moving on to the next question. Which of the following statements best describes the graph? عندنا graph x, which is the red, graph y, which is the blue, و z green. Immediately نعرف إن هني this is the mean, for they all share the same mean. So we can eliminate this answer. Now we need to check the variance. Immediately we can say that X has the smallest variance, then it doesn't cover a wide range of number as Z or Y. Z has the largest variance, while Y is in between. When you have a large variance, the graph would be more flat and wide. So Z is the largest variance, while X is the smallest variance. So the answer here is C. Moving on to the next question. Fatma is a student at HSC. She studied 3 subjects in her first year, which were chemistry, biostatistics, and physics. She scored 80% in all the subjects. The mean of her score, the mean of the scores of her class was 75 in chemistry, 70 in biostatistics, and physics. The standard deviation of the scores for both chemistry and biostatistics was the same, but it was lower for physics. Which of the following is true? Here, the most important part of the question is the standard deviation and her score and the class mean. These are the things that we need to focus on. In all of her classes, she scored higher than the mean. In chemistry, the standard deviation, the mean of her score, the mean of the class's score was 75. And by statistics, it was 70, and physics, it was 70 as well. The standard deviation of the scores for both chemistry and biostatistics was the same, but it was lower for physics. This means, let's imagine that her score is 80. 80, 80. In both chemistry and biostatistics, the standard deviation was the same. So let's say, for example, the standard deviation is 5. For example, in both of these classes, the standard deviation was 5. In chemistry, her score was 1 standard deviation higher. In biostatistics, it was 2 standard deviations higher. However, the standard deviation for physics is lower. So let's say in physics, the standard deviation was 2.5. So her score was approximately 4 standard deviations higher, right? فالحين let's look at the options. Her score in physics is higher than in chemistry. We can't say that, then all of the scores are 80. So that's immediately false. Her rank in the 3 subjects are the same. No, because in chemistry, she's only 1 standard deviation higher, whereas in biostatistics, she's 2 standard deviation higher than the mean, and in physics, she was 4 standard deviations higher. So it's false. Her rank in chemistry and biostatistics is higher than physics. That's also false because she's 4 standard deviations higher in physics. So that means she's way higher than the mean. Meaning, D is the answer. Her class rank in physics is higher than in chemistry and biostatistics. If this is not clear, we can imagine it as a graph. I'm sorry, then the graph is not really good, but this is the mean. In bio, let's go with chemistry first. So chemistry, the class mean was 75, and she was 80. That's 1 standard deviation higher, so that's not that much higher. She's within the 68% range of the mean. Whereas in biostatistics, the class mean was 70, and she was 80, meaning she was 2 standard deviations higher. But in physics, the class mean was 70, and her score was 80. But in this case, she was 4 standard deviations higher. This is because it was a smaller standard deviation. As the standard deviation becomes smaller, she's in a higher rank, despite her score being the same in all three classes. I hope this is clear. So we move on to the 7th question. A group of researchers wanted to measure the hemoglobin levels in children. Each researcher selected a school and took a sample of the school kids in the playground. The results were that they had similar means. What is the reason? So if the means were similar, this ultimately means that there was a low variability. This means ما كان في wide difference in values when they took the samples from the kids. But this is a straightforward question with a straightforward answer. We can't say it's a large sample size because it doesn't indicate anything, what a physical exercise, what are the same sample size, because it doesn't necessarily mean if the sample size is the same that we'd have similar means within the sample. Okay, moving on to question 8. If there are two populations, population A has a higher z-score than population B for the same value. Knowing that both populations have the same mean, what is true regarding the level of obesity? It's the same idea as question 7. If we have a higher z-score, that means عندنا higher variability. هذه قاعدة لازم نعرفها. Higher z-score means higher variability. As I illustrated in this question, higher variability means the graph would be more wide and flat. So we can say immediately that is the answer. And question 9, what is true regarding the z-score? القاعدة لازم نعرفها. When the z-score is equal to 0, which is the same thing as here, 0. If the graph or the distribution is normal, then the median and the mean and the mode are equal to 0. Most importantly, median and mean. So here, the answer would be A, because z-score is equal to 0 and the median is equal to 0. The distribution is binomial and symmetric. Usually we'd prefer unimodal and symmetric, but since this is the best answer here, we'd go with A. لأن it can't be unimodal and positively skewed if it's a normal distribution, so we'd immediately cancel C. And also, the median cannot be higher than 0, so D is also incorrect. And the median not equal to 0 would not be symmetric and unimodal also. Moving on to question 10. We have the values 11, 12, 7, 8, 2, 4, and 5. What will happen if we change 2 to 0.3? أول شيء لازم نسوي, we'd have to order it so we can check if the median stays the same or does not. 2, 4, 5, 7, 8, 11, 12. If we change it, I forgot the comma here. If we change it to 0.3, we'd realize since we did not change the order within the middle, the median stays the same. So we'd immediately cross out option C. And also since the values, the first value decreased, that would mean the mean would decrease as well. So we'd cancel option A. So now what we need to check is since in option B and option D, the standard error measure is the same, So we need to check the standard deviation following the standard deviation formula. First of all, we need to compare the old standard deviation to the new standard deviation. So if we have to calculate the mean first for these values. So adding 2 and 4, 5, 7, 8, 11, and 12, then divide it by the total, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Once you calculate it, you'd find that the mean here is 7. So now let's calculate the standard deviation, which is equal to the square root. I think I need more space. Okay. So 2 minus 7 squared plus 4 minus 7 squared plus 5 minus 7 squared plus 7 minus 7 squared. 8 minus 7 squared. And finally 12 minus 7 squared. All over the sample size minus 1. So 7 minus 1. Give me a second to calculate it. And standard deviation طلع لي 3.65. Let's calculate the new standard deviation. First of all, let's start with the new sample mean. It's the same thing, adding all of the values, then divide it by the number of the values. The new mean here is 6.75, but it confirms our original answer, which is that the mean will decrease. Calculating the new standard deviation. .75 squared plus 4 minus 6.75 squared . 7 minus 6.75 squared. 8 minus 6.75 squared. 11 minus 6.75 squared plus 12 minus 6.75 squared. نفس الشيء 7 minus 1, so 6. And it's time to input all of this into the calculator. كيف الحين يطلع لي الإجابة 4.07. It increased. For the answer here is D. ونصيحة مني إن تكتبون هذا كله بالكالكوليتر بروحه، بعدين تحطون السكوير روت answer over 6، لأن مرات ما يخليكم تكتبون الفاليوز كلها، فأحسن لكم تسوون كذي. Moving on to question number 11. Suppose that the cholesterol milligram per deciliter for obese people has a mean of 250 milligram per deciliter and a standard deviation of 100 milligram per deciliter. What is the value of the standard score, Z-score, for an obese patient with a cholesterol concentration of 210 milligram per deciliter? Again, نكتب الفورمولا عشان ما ننساها. X, which is 210, minus the sample mean, which is 350, over the standard deviation, which is 100. So 210 minus 350 over 100. حطها بالكالكوليتر. Negative 1.4. هل question wide easy or very straightforward? Okay. What is the interquartile range? The interquartile range is basically subtracting the 75th percentile from the 25th percentile. It's a really good way of examining the data لأن it's robust against outliers. Let's see. So the 75th percentile is here, moving downwards. We make a straighter line. Assuming these we count by twos here, فهذا this is 174, and we're going to subtract it by the 25th percentile. Which is 162. 174 minus 162 هيعطينا 12. The answer is B. Also a very easy question. Okay. What is the area under the Z curve between 1 and negative 2? So let's check. شنو الفاليو 1 يعطينا 0.1587 و 2 0.02275. When they want the value between 1 and negative 2, it's the same thing. So we're going to assume in the 2 value negative 2 فيصير هني 1 here. زين واحنا we want this which is in between. فما راح تفرق ويانا إذا خذينا 2 or negative 2 لأن احنا نبي اللي هني which is going to be the same on either side for 2. First we're going to find this هني و this هني، بعدين we're going to subtract it by 1. راح يصير أوضح الحين مع حل. فالحين نعرف إن 1 هو 0.1587، فهذا هني خلينا نقول 1، وعرفنا إن هذا الفاليو 0.1587 وهذا 2 اللي هو الفاليو 0.02275. الحين ما يهمنا نيجاتيف ولا لا، لأن احنا بس قاعد نطالع التيل، ما لنا شغل بالفاليوز اللي بالنص. احنا نبي الحين نطلع هذا، فاللي بنسويه is we're going to add these two values بعدين we subtract them by 1. ف 1 minus 0.1587 plus 0.02275. حطها بالكالكوليتر. يعطيني 0 point تقريبا يعني 82 which is close to this. كبر الخط again to C. So C is their answer here. Okay, question number 14. If the mean is 3,500 and the standard deviation is 250, what is the 85th percentile? فالحين نبي نطلع X. فعندنا mean which is 3,500 standard deviation which is 250. الحين using the z-score table عندنا هني لازم نعرف شنو ال 85th percentile. ف basically 100 minus 85 شنو؟ It's 15. فلازم نطلع 0.15. And I feel like the closest value is this one. So 1.04. Well, since it's higher than the mean, which is 50th percentile, راح نخليه positive ما راح نحوله negative. So 1.04 times 250 أول شيء حطينا 260. بعدين 260 plus 3,500 يعطيني 3,760, which is the closest to this one. Moving on to question 15. The BMI of Kuwaiti soldiers is normally distributed with a mean of 25 and a standard deviation of 2.5. How can this be interpreted? This is the same as question 4 where we need to verify each answer. هني دام عندنا confidence interval أنا عندي أول شيء أحسن لنا نشيك this لأن هذا أسرع شوية. فخلينا نشوف. فنعرف إن المين is 25 و 95% of the values is within 2 standard deviations of the mean above and below it. plus minus 2 standard deviations which is 2.5. 25 minus 5 which is 2 times 2.5 يعطينا 20 و 25 plus 5 يعطينا 30. sorry 30. B is the answer here. بس إذا كنتوا تبون تشيكون the confidence interval we can do it first. Confidence interval is equal to the mean which is 25 plus minus 1.96 which is the 95% confidence interval value times the standard error. The standard error is the standard deviation of the sample over the number of the sample size. But since هني ما عندنا sample size, we cannot calculate it. It does not equate to A. Okay, so what is the main characteristic of a standard normal distribution? So as I said before, in the normal distribution table here, the mean, median, and mode is equal to 0, and the area is equal to 1, and it has a standard deviation of 1 also. So the only answer that exhibits that is C.
Question 17. Which of the following is normally distributed? معطينا A و B و C و D. Directly أنا راح أشطب A لأن a box and whisker ما يعطيني إذا الجراف normally distributed ولا لا. نقدر نقول إن الجراف symmetric من شكل box and whisker، بس ما نقدر نقول إذا الجراف is normally distributed أو لا. فإحنا راح نشوف QQ plots، ومن النوتة ندري إن C is the correct answer. فالأنسر is C. Question 18. The diastolic blood pressure was taken from a random sample n equals 300. Suppose that the 99% confidence interval was 68 to 73. What would be the width of the 95 confidence interval? بهالسؤال ما يبونا نحسب كم confidence interval، بس يبونا نعرف نقطة مهمة، إن إحنا لما نزيد confidence level اللي هو 99 أو 95 أو 90%، إحنا هم قاعد نزيد width of confidence interval. the higher the confidence level the wider the confidence interval. فخلنا نشوف الأنسرز. A. The 95% interval would be wider than the 99% interval. غلط. B. The 95% interval would be narrower than the 99 interval. صح. C. The 95% and 99% interval would be the same. غلط. D. One cannot decide whether it would be wider, narrower or the same. غلط. We can decide. وندري إن 95% interval راح يكون narrower than 99% interval.